Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I'm your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and I want to welcome you to my program in which I discuss an individual horror film. Doesn't matter what subgenre, doesn't matter what decade, but me and my special guest sit down, have a conversation about that particular film, and we kind of get into it, the nitty gritty, the critique analysis, all of it for your enjoyment. Now, I do want to welcome you to Pride Month as we are delving into a lot of different movies with the LGBTQ plus themes in it. So we are going to just jump right into the movie Hellraiser from 2022. And to discuss this movie with me, I brought on Dave Watkins again. We've discussed several movies this month, and it's going to be fun to talk about this one with him. Thank you, Dave, for joining us today on the program.
Good to be back, man. I'm excited to be talking about Hellraiser.
So for everyone listening, we haven't actually done any of the other Hellraiser films yet, although they are on our list to do in the future podcast episodes. But we're going to delve right into this remake slash reboot of the franchise with the 2022 version, and it's a bit different from the previous one.
Yeah. Now this one, like we were talking about before we got on here, it was released directly to Hulu in 2022. Right now, I got a version of this in physical media form in a still book it's a 4K from Turban. That's a German company. And it looks good on Hulu. Is it still on Hulu to watch on there?
Yes.
But the still book looks really good, and I watched it on a larger television in 4K, and I thought it looked, as far as the picture quality, it looked amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What did you think about the film? Wait, so you didn't watch it on Hulu itself? You had watched it from the media book version, right?
Well, here's how it went down for me. So it came on. I had Hulu in 2022. I don't have it anymore, but
Okay.
but I turned it on and I watched maybe 10 minutes of it and fell asleep. Not because of the movie. I just kind of habit that I do when I get tired. I turn something on, and then I never went back to finishing it. I noticed right away. I thought it was cool that it had the actor from ER in it, Gorgon Vishnich, I think is how you pronounce his name. Yeah, he plays Roland Voight in this. He played one of the main. He's played. It was almost like George Clooney's replacement on
Yeah.
ER. And like I think his name was Luca.
Luca.
Luke. I can't. I should have written it down. But I thought he was good on ER. I enjoyed him on ER. When I saw him in this, I think he's really good in this. He's kind of the main human protagonist. I mean, antagonist in the film. But yeah, so I was like, it was cool to see that they had him in there, and also I was already aware that David Bruckner had directed this film. Who was it? I believe was he Atlanta local, or I know he did an
He did the Signal, but I don't know if he's Atlanta local or if he came in from somewhere else to help with the Signal or not. I don't know. It was a
right,
Signal,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. The Signal was an Atlanta film because we're based in Atlanta. For anyone who doesn't know that, but it was a very big deal in Atlanta when it came out. It has three different directors directed different parts of the film, and they kind of tell the same type of story, but it's told from almost like different genre points of view. Especially the middle part was very kind of Pulp Fiction and comedy like, but the part that David Bruckner directed of it is very similar to this, where it's kind of edgy horror that especially in the Signal, he had that kind of like something being in focus and something being out of focus creeping up behind people. So it was really I mean, I thought especially the first and second parts of the Signal I thought were really strong, but that part was stood out as the strongest because it was the scariest. And I think that by the time you got to the third one, not that the last part was bad, it was just such a jarring switch between genres. I think third one I guess was more of an action in the Signal.
Well, I've seen most all of his films actually. I had to relook him up. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw all of his films now. And because I really enjoyed The Signal when it came out, and I saw it before they had the whole theatrical release and all that type of stuff because it was a local film. And I kind of liked his progression with the types of films that he did and the cinematography in his films, and I like the fact that this is a very, even though it's got that little indie spirit to it, still it is a very glossy version of a Hellraiser film, which you kind of
Yeah.
like the grittiness of the original two. And then of course, by the time you got to Blood, the third one, Hell on Earth, the Bloodline, it seems very slick before it goes into straight to DVD form. I think this one looks the best since at least Bloodline. I think the
I'd agree with that. I think that the first four films in the Hellraiser series were released theatrically.
Mhm.
And, after that, they're all straight to video. So there's some good ones. Most of them aren't that good. Most of them aren't even really Hellraiser movies. I had another like a different script, and they just kind of script, and then they just like shoehorned Hellraiser in there somehow into the stories. This one is very Hellraiser. Like I think what you said there when you said glossy. That is definitely what this is. Still a little gritty, but it is a lot of glossiness to it, which is maybe a little too glossy. But they do try to play with the lighting. It does look
Mhm.
it's sometimes dingy and dark and almost hazy. But when you see the Cenobites, like the creatures from the Hell Dimension, they do look shiny sometimes or glossy and almost. I mean, they look a lot different than they have before.
Yeah. Yes. One of the things I really liked about the film is how gritty a lot of the early scenes with our main character Riley is. Riley and Trevor and her friends before we get to Voight's mansion scenes. The mansion is like this. I felt a lot like the hotel in Bloodlines with the way it was designed and the production design of that entire building itself. I thought it was really cool and really glossy. But when you're not in that building, you get a lot of those shadows and haze and even those saturated colors when the Cenobites are coming out to be revealed.
Yeah.
You see, and this film has a lot of stuff that has never been attempted in some of the other films prior to this, and that's one of the things I really enjoyed about the film. I can't. I didn't see this on Hulu. I at all. I bought a Blu-ray version of it and ended up watching it that way because I didn't have Hulu. And I really enjoyed the film because it made me feel like this should have been a theatrical film, and I would have enjoyed seeing it in the theaters as opposed to something that went straight to streaming or straight to video.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree. I think should have went straight. Should have been in the theater. I think it because of the time frame when it came out in
Yeah,
2022. I think that's the reason.
yeah.
It had a $14 million budget, which I mean in 2022, it's. I
That's
mean
still a small budget.
yeah. I mean it's funny though how budgets work sometimes, but it is a small budget, but they got that especially with that house location. That's a really big set, and it's a very impressive set. The set design on it and that Roland Voigt's house. It's funny. Another thing that it kind of reminds me of, but not as intricate, but is the 13th Ghost
Oh yeah.
house, the house of glass. But just because it has all these contraptions and the doors close and all that kind of cool stuff.
No, I mean you can see some of that in the production design aspects. The so-called sky window, where you obviously see that the patterns from the Lamont configuration are all peppered throughout that entire house. But of course, in the film, you realize why it is because Voight has created a more or less prison of which these cinemates can't just come in if they're not like let in. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
I
He's
like.
trying to outsmart the Cenobites.
Yeah,
Like that's going to work. But.
I know. Well, you know what? What that was one thing we're getting to that, and I want to say that one of the aspects I loved about this is how much into its own mythology it is crafted for this film. Like it is very separate from the other films that came,
Yeah.
which is why I say it's like a reboot. Like it's still the Hellraiser world, but the way in which it operates is very different from any of the previous films. There is like when Riley discovers through Voight's diary that there is 6 different configurations and they all have names and purposes. Something that we haven't seen in any of the other films because simply people solve the puzzle in the other films, and that's when the Cenobites came from them. There is a means for this.
Yeah, yeah, I thought the configurations were interesting. We've seen the Leviathan before,
yes.
which is the final configuration, but that's the Leviathan's actually in some of the other films, not as the box, but as it actually shows up in this one too near the end. But it actually is, I think, the ruler of hell, and it's even though it is like a box that looks like it almost looks like a double. like diamond
Mhm.
shaped the spear sort of thing. But it's been in you've seen it in the sky in Hellraiser too, in the hell world, hell dimension. But it's in charge of everything, is what I'm to believe.
Yeah, yeah. It would be interesting because from my understanding, they went through a lot of elaborate story elements to craft the kind of the history of these different configurations, and which we as audience members don't always see it all.
Yeah,
Um, and we're not told it all, but that adds to the mythology, like something they could build on later if they wanted to. But I was aware that they
yeah.
created all of it so that they have it there.
Right. I wrote down notes on the four, I mean the six configurations. We get to see three of them in the film. Um, at least three of them. I may have missed something, but the lament is the regular box shape, and then we see lore, but it's not used. The lore is knowledge, which is the second configuration. The third one is, um, I think I can't remember writing. It is Laterant, which means love, and liminal, which we'll talk about later. We do see that one, and that's sensation. Lazarus is resurrection, and that's mentioned.
Yeah.
And Leviathan, because Lazarus is the one they want to do, and Leviathan, which is the final configuration, is power, and also what they say an audience with God
Yeah.
as well. So that, but as we know, and as the characters find out in all these movies, the Cenobites don't operate on the same type of things as we do. Like what their idea of knowledge or sensation or love is completely different than what a human would experience, and
Mhm.
it's almost always has to do with torture and ripping people's bodies apart and killing them. So it's
I get the
and it,
impression that pain is pleasure for them. And
yeah,
they want everyone who goes through their pain to also feel pleasure in that pain. Hence
yeah,
what happens to Voight when he gets his wish after he sees Leviathan, or
yeah.
does what they do to him, and it's not exactly what he was expecting. Of
Yeah,
course,
yeah, but yeah, he was the liminal, which was sensation, and he thought sensation would be like a good thing, because you would assume it would be good. It sounds pretty good, but not in in these Cenobites are they come from a different dimension. It says it's called Hellraiser, but it doesn't seem they seem alien almost. They're not necessarily not from this dimension. They might even be from a different planet or universe.
yeah. I hate to say this because when we're recording this, everyone, we were also been recording episodes for our Phantasm franchise. And that's what I get the feeling for when I'm watching this Hellraiser. Like we don't know what world the tall man is from in Phantasm, but we know it's a different dimension, and that's what I get the feeling before when I think about the Cenobites. I thought about Hell when I saw the
Yeah.
first two, but after that, it kind of felt like they were coming from a different dimension more so than the hell. Like this doesn't really seem like hell to me, at
Yeah.
all. To be honest with you, it does seem like a different.
Right. Yeah, yeah. I always thought they were from Hell and originally, but I think that especially here it does. Even some of the other ones, we begin to feel like maybe they're not from this
Mhm.
planet, and they have like a different mindset as far as what it's even kind of said in the dialogue here. Some of the dialogue in here is kind of good, especially when they're talking about trying to explain things. So it's kind of done. It's done pretty good. The script's pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I think was it David. I don't want to misplace the writer on this one. I noticed the name and I want to make sure I got it right. Okay, David Goyer was involved. I was like, wait a
He's
second.
a story.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so the writers two the screenplay is written by Ben Collin and geez, I can't pronounce this. I'm not gonna be able to pronounce his last name. I'll give it a shot. Yeah, go ahead and do it. Do
Latrowski.
it.
Luke Latrowski.
Yeah, yeah. So these guys apparently have been working with David Bruckner on other things, like some of his other films. It looks like, including Siren, which was like a Siren was directed by Greg Bishop though, but Siren is David Bruckner directed like that part of the VHS, and it was kind of
Mhm.
like a feature length version of that.
I
But
keep thinking that I think he was working on The Ritual when they were doing Siren. I could be wrong about that though. Uh, but yeah, David S. Goyer, I saw his name on there. He probably came up with a story, and then those two took it, took it and ran with it. Because they seem to be a writing team, and like they get a screen story as well with David S. Goyer, but then they wrote the screenplay. So I that's how I
yeah, no.
imagine the process went. Um, and I'm fine with that because I like what they crafted. I really enjoy the way this film unfolds. The Riley character in this film makes me feel a lot like the Kirsty character in the original two films. She's a flawed character with a lot of issues and drama with her life, and she just gets
Yeah.
thrust in the story by accident.
I
Uh,
think, yeah. Well, one thing that they do, the character is seems to be a bit of a loser, and she's a drug addict and having all kinds of issues. She's part of the generation of the younger generation from this time period of 2022, which is who they're just struggling. You know, you can tell a lot of them are struggling. They're struggling with different aspects of life, and we see this in like a good version of this. I think we see your what's that show? Euphoria. I'm not pronouncing it right.
Euphoria,
Euphoria.
Euphoria.
Yeah, geez, I can't believe I mispronounced that bad. But it kind of reminds me of the main character on that show a little bit. But this character, though, is at heart a good character, as we find out. And that's the important thing about the character is that she is struggling, but we find out as it goes on, unlike some of the other characters, her and the Colin character both have a good hearts, and that's an important thing I think for a protagonist that we don't always see. I mean, you know, and the protagonist in the first one was kind of like that. She was kind of thrust into this situation
Hmm.
without you know, in a kind of different scenario, but she was kind of wasn't like a drug addict and a loser like in this one. She was pretty well suited, but then her dad got involved with this really bad stepmom who was like doing all this other stuff, like, you know, like sleeping with the guy's brother and then
With
trying to bring him back from hell, and you know.
yeah, but Kirsty just never seemed to like her anyways, whether or not she knew any of that or not. She just
Yeah.
knew that her stepmother was bad news for her father, and that's kind of like where that little antagonism comes from those characters in that first film, um, and the
The
fact that
actor, yeah,
she
yeah,
was so.
that actress that plays Riley is I'm going to try to pronounce her name, Odessa Azion.
Yeah,
Um, and so she's pretty good though. She's pretty good in this. I haven't seen her in anything else, but it looks like she's been in a bunch of stuff. She's been in Marty Supreme, Until Dawn.
yeah, she was really good Until Dawn. And everyone we've already done an episode on Until Dawn. You can check that one out. But she did a really good job in that one. So.
Yeah, and I like what she does in this too. And she has a lot to do because of the. I mean, that's the good thing when you write such a flawed character is, and there's a lot for her to react to, and she does step up to it for what she has to do in the movie.
Well, the thing I like about her character the most is the fact that she has the opportunity to not continue going forward with the story, but she does because she feels guilt over what she has said and done with her brother, who ends up kicking her out, and then this leads to her doing even more bad things, not just to herself, but to her friends and people who actually genuinely care about her like Colin and Nora. You know, and
Well, I think she's manipulated into most of the stuff that she does, with the exception of the final stuff that decisions that she makes in the film. But I think because her boyfriend, I mean, obviously we're going to go ahead and spoil this. He's a bit of a shithead, and he's working for Voight, but but she's being manipulated by Voight and her boyfriend throughout the film, and she's her boyfriend even says that she's a mark. They're trying to use her as a mark to get to get Voight. He's trying to get this contraption out of him, and he's trying to reopen the Hellgate so he can do that. And he's using her as that, and so, but
That's
she's
what he tries
manipulated.
to do. But also
Yeah,
keep in mind he makes comment that she would have done it on her own anyways. She ended up getting at the same place whether he helped her or not. And I thought that was really telling about her character. And that's not only because I actually like this aspect too, is that the priest, which is they don't call her Pinhead in this one, she's just known as the priest in this movie. Is saying these voices in her head throughout the entire film, manipulating her. I actually like that aspect that we didn't see before in any of the other films. When
yeah. The character who looks a lot like Pinhead, but very effeminate and very very skinny and all that. But it is. I think it is on screen probably more than Pinhead usually is, with maybe the exception of the third Hellraiser.
yeah, yeah.
They got a pretty good bit of screen time. Now, I like the portrayal, but I don't feel like that character is the leader, but I don't feel the same kind of gravitas I feel from Doug Bradley's version of Pinhead. I don't feel that, like, I almost don't feel like it's the leader of the Cenobites. I feel like it's just another one of the Cenobites.
That's interesting. I don't know, to be honest with you, because I just, in theory and in practice, have always just put that character as the leader of the Cenobites. I did
Well,
not think
yeah,
about
yeah,
whether or not she felt like the leader. Because you're
yeah.
right, Doug Bradley, in all the films that he's in, is the leader of the
Yeah.
Cenobites
I mean, there's
themselves.
like no question. He bust in there, and just I don't even think it was intended at first, and then they're like, "Oh wow, he's doing it." He's the guy. But
Now,
I think, yeah,
no, I
yeah,
was gonna say he didn't really have a name in the first movie. Like
right, right, yeah,
he doesn't have a name in the book either.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, again, I like the portrayal. I think it looks cool, and yeah, but sometimes I think it is a little too glossy looking on some of the Cenobites. They, it's weird because it's almost like they have a really some great makeup going on with them, but it's something that some of parts of it look too white, like some parts of them, or some are too shiny or too glossy or something.
Hmm. Oh, they are definitely very pale in this movie.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
it's like reflective gloss. I think that it's that kind of shiny. I think shiny is another good thing. Like sometimes, which I think kind of takes a little bit of the frightening aspect of it off because it doesn't look quite right to me when
hmm,
the Cenobites are there.
interesting.
But again, I think they look better than they do in most of the sequels after four. But
Well, well, to be honest with you, I liked a lot. I liked the original Cenobites, the first two movie, and then the third movie. Even though they're fun, they're all highly forgettable. And then, of course, the fourth one has
yeah.
Angelique, which
Well,
that
yeah,
look returns with one of them in this film. That's very close to being that more Angelique one. I can't for the life of me tell which one by name they are. I just have the names for all of them, but I do not know which is which, other than the Chatterer. I could tell who the Chatterer is.
yeah,
I could tell who the priest is, but I can't tell who the Weeper, the Gasp, and the Asphyx are. She might be the Asphyx.
yeah. The asphyx. It says a Cenobite with a sheet of flesh. That says a Cenobite with a sheet of flesh fastened over her face that prevents respiration and arms. That's the one
Uh,
I think near the end that
yeah,
kind
that's
of
the one.
gets stuck in yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
I
one.
know which one you're talking about. I think it's the Weeper, the
Just
Cenobite who
Weeper.
bleeds from her eyes. Maybe.
See, I
I
don't
don't
know
know.
either. I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't read the descriptions of them. I just put down the names of all of them because it used to be fun to know the names of them. The first two movies, it's a lot easier to know who they all are. And the third movie, they give them names as you're watching the movie. So
Yeah,
it's
we got the video camera guy and the
yeah.
CD guy,
So those are a little easier. But as the later films came out, I think the twins were about the only ones that were easier to like decipher, and then they just became more Cenobites. They just kept using different Cenobites for each film. I like the looks for all of them in this film, though. Yeah, I think that's the most terrifying aspect of the film itself because for me, having seen however many sequels this is number wise, I don't really get scared from these movies at all. I
Yeah.
don't. I barely think I was scared when I was watching the first one when that original one came out. I just thought it was a cool fucking movie. I think the most terrifying thing was Frank getting his skin back. His resurrection was probably the
Yeah.
most disturbing thing. And there's nothing really like that in this film. So I just think the visuals themselves are very striking and cool, even though I think they try their damnedest to be scary. I don't know if they actually are scary. Um,
Yeah, yeah, that's what it's like. I feel like they could be scary though,
mm,
because that's okay. I figured it out when we were talking about it. It's called The Gasp. It's like you're talking about the Asian one, right? The
sure.
Asian lady. That's what it says. The Gasp is. It's the one that's seen on screen probably the
The
most
most,
after The
yes,
Priest.
that would be her.
And yeah, and it says a Cenobite and Pinhead's. Essentially, it says Pinhead's assistant whose deformation hinders her breathing. Yeah, because you got that weird thing over her head,
Yes, that's
you know.
the
Yeah,
weird thing. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
I
That
can't.
was seen. I would say. I mean, it's weird the way that. Yeah, it feels like they should be scary, but they're not. I don't understand quite. I don't quite understand why though. It is odd. It.
Well, I think the only one that was scary in the original one, I think they called it the engineer, the creature that only shows up the end, that's coming down the hallway, the corridor. But Butterball, the female Cenobite, Chatterer, Pinhead, none of them ever seemed scary to me when I originally watched the first film. They just looked
Yeah.
cool to me because they were different. They
Yeah.
were different than anything I'd ever seen before. So I
Yeah.
don't know
Yeah.
if this film will be scary or not because they're still playing on that aesthetic that makes them look almost like this S&M aesthetic and sexual and gory aesthetic, but we've already
Yeah. Yeah.
seen
Yeah.
it
Sure.
in other movies, so it's like it's not nearly as innovative and different. It's cool to me. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree that with the original Hellraiser, the Cenobites are a little bit scary, but I mean, it is more of like that's cool. It's cool to see. I like, but even I think Chatter's kind of it was originally kind of scary. I didn't feel I wasn't that scared by the look of Chatter. Again, that one Chatter was a little too bright. You know, it's like the something brightness. It's weird because everything's dark.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Cenobites are like really bright looking.
Yeah, and the scenes where they're in the background, uh, a lot of those scenes you can see them clearly, but when they're in closer shots or medium shots, you're in the shadows a lot. Like they're clearer the further away they are until they're right up on you. Um,
Yeah. The good news is we get to see a lot of them in
we
this
do, we
movie.
do.
So
We do,
it,
and that's always good for me.
yeah.
I enjoy watching the Cenobites. Out of all the
Yes.
franchises out there, I like the Cenobites in general because of what I think they are. That may not necessarily be what they actually are.
Right. Well, like in the first one, like we were talking about with Frank being brought back to life and him being the main villain, and the Cenobites were used very sparingly in
Hmm.
the first one because it was more about that story of bringing him back. Where this one, they're in it a lot more, but this one has a similar type of kind of a similar antagonist who's trying to get himself repaired. He's just doing it in a different way, and that which involves the cube or the puzzle box has to go through all six configurations to be able to open the doorway to another dimension, the hell dimension, which I think is a new thing because usually it would be in the other Hellraiser movies they'd have to solve the puzzle, but it wouldn't necessarily say there's six different configurations you
Oh,
have to do. It would be like you would solve the puzzle and then once it was solved, you entered it. Even if and that was like even if you didn't know what you're doing. Like in the second one, they have like that autistic or the
yeah.
mute girl who has no idea what it means to do the box, but when she opens it, she becomes part of the a victim of it. Even though I think they eventually save her by the end of it. But here, not only that, they have new lore with the box too that that after you do the first configuration, it has like a blade that comes out of the box, and it cuts somebody, and that person is then surrounded by Cenobites and pulled into the Hell dimension, and then the the chains come out. That the chains have always been pretty scary, I think. Like seeing the chains come out and then almost like grabbing somebody and then pulling them up and they attach onto their skin and then they pull them apart and then they kind of torture them. Sometimes they'll rip somebody's skin off their body. It's called they flay people
Yep.
alive.
And then sometimes they
It's,
just rip them completely apart in multiple different pieces.
yeah, but those chains are part. I think they come from the Leviathan is where they come from,
Mm,
and so basically after that, the first I guess, and then in order for each configuration to go forward, it has to take another victim or something. And then eventually, if you get all six configurations, you get to choose which. There's six configurations, but you get to choose which one of them that you want to use. Really become you basically become a Cenobite. That's your ticket to becoming a Cenobite, but you get to choose which one of the configurations that you want. It's considered a prize for completing the box six times. There's a little flawedness going on with that because it's a little unclear because you stab people each time and what you have to be able to trick somebody into getting stabbed each time, and then Roland's able to manipulate this by having his house, and he's able to separate himself from getting attacked by the Cenobites while someone else is getting killed.
hmm
So it's a little convoluted, but it's kind of cool too.
I actually liked the way it unfolds in this story because when you first see Voight with the first victim, I think his name is Joey. Yeah, Joey, where he's manipulated by Serena. Because she goes to like a gay club and she finds him, brings him back to Voight's mansion, and he becomes the first victim when he saw when first the box kind of like mesmerizes him. That's what
Well,
happens
dude,
with
yeah,
the character. The box kind
yeah.
of mesmerizes them. His entire Joey's entire persona is pulled towards the box when there are so many other artifacts in Voight's mansion that he could be looking at. Um, and then of course he solves the first configuration. And we see everything unfold, and we see that Voight is watching, and he just watches because later on we realize that he has to do six victims in order to have an
Yeah.
audience with God.
Well, well, he's actually in that scene. Um, Joey actually does the last configuration, the Leviathan configuration, and that's when he gets his prize. He's the sixth victim of the
Yeah,
first thing, and they have to kind of start over after that because like that's all we see. But a couple things I do want to point out. What's her name? The assistant who's like a lawyer
Serena.
working for him, Serena, played by Hayam Abbas. I think is how you pronounce her name. Hayam Abbas was on Succession. Did you ever see that show?
I have not seen the whole thing, but yes, I do know she. I know who she plays in Succession.
Awesome show. I love that show. But she was really she played like the main character's wife in that, or Brian Cox's character's wife. Here she plays a lawyer, and she brings. It's weird because we don't see her go to a gay club, but that's actually in his house when she's talking to him. Like it looks like it's in a restaurant or a bar or something. But that's part of his house because then she's like, let's go down the hall to see Roland or whatever.
Was that in his house? I kept.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
I
thought
have
it
to.
was a club too, but they're having like an orgy or something at his house. But yeah.
Oh, I kept. That's why I assumed it was a gay bar. I did not think of that as being in his own house.
Right, right. Yeah, no, they're having like it's. I thought that the first time I watched it, and the second time I thought that too. But then on the third time, I was taking notes on it, and then I noticed I was like, wait a minute. She actually tells him to go down the hall, and so the whole opening part after the first scene is her getting the box from
Getting the
somebody
box.
sells it to
Serbia.
her. Yeah, but it's unlike the what we're used to in the other Hellraiser when someone asks, "What is your pleasure, sir?" and then they sell you the box. That don't happen, unfortunately. But she goes and gets it from this guy who seems like not that. I mean, he's a little shady, but you'd think he would be a little little different. He seems just kind of like a normal guy who would be selling something shady, and he sells her. The box is inside, or the puzzle box is inside of a big wooden box that protects it, and we know that because we see that wooden box later again when somebody gets it out. But I don't know. But yeah. It's not that important, but I just thought it was like you thought it was the same thing I thought it was, that they were
Yeah,
at a
dude.
bar or something. But yeah,
When I rewatch it, I'll have to think about that because I did not think about it like that. No, it's the way the place looks versus when it shifts from that location to when Voight and Joey are together. I was like, oh,
yeah,
so she took him to his house. I did not think of, yeah. Interesting.
yeah. But then what happens after that? Then it goes 6 years later. We meet
Mhm.
Riley, and the first time we meet her, she's having sex with her boyfriend, and then he says that he loves her, and she flips out and is like, "No, I don't want to hear this." Which is an interesting thing because her boyfriend here is already starting to manipulate her by saying that he loves her because I don't. It's pretty clear that he doesn't since he's using her as a mark for for Roland Voight later on. Because you think if he was like truly like if it was like an epiphany for him that he decided that he loved her, it would continue forward. But I think this is a manipulation. I'm actually 98% positive it's a
Yeah. No, I get
manipulation
that too. Uh,
tactic.
when I
And
rewatched, I got the same impression too. So you know,
yeah,
I,
yeah. And then he comes out, and then she's like leaves the sex scene, and then they come out. It's what do you think about that introducing a character with like a kind of like a it's not that graphic of a sex scene, but it does feel a little nasty for some reason, a little dingy. Like both the characters seem a little dingy to me. But what do you think about introducing characters that way?
I didn't mind the introduction like that because I got this sense that there needs to be a huge contrast really fast between Riley and Trevor and Colin and Matt. When we see like Matt is which is Riley's brother, older brother, is so completely by the books, normal. When we go into like we see them in their apartment outside of that room, it seems like that
Yeah,
is a normal setting. Whereas in that
yeah,
room, it is not. It's kind of like what we just talked about the scene I thought was in a gay bar versus Voight's house. That contrast is very fast, but it
yeah.
works because of what the characters are going from one place to the other. And that I think it works fine with that one because Matt is like this overprotective brother who sees potential in his delinquent sister, so to speak, who is more or less, I guess, like you were saying, is someone of this modern age who feels like everything's against her. She's just working from paycheck to paycheck. She can't get by, and she's on the poverty levels. She can't have her own place without mooching off her own older brother. I mean,
Right. It
it's
does seem
wow.
like yeah. It seems like she's always the victim, and she
Yes.
is the victim on top of that in this. But on top of that, like, we see her room and the way that it looks, and we know she doesn't take care of things either. So that's why when we first see her room, we think it's like almost like a really, I guess, low rent house the way that it looks, and then they come into the apartment and it
Yeah.
looks fairly tidy. You know, and it's like having a bad roommate who's going to destroy your damn room, you know,
Yeah.
your guest room.
Well, yeah, I mean that's how I took it. For a moment there, I didn't think when I first saw this, I didn't think she was going to be the main character either. So,
Yeah, but
but as the movie came on, I kept thinking more and more of like the character in Evil Dead, the remake of the Evil Dead,
yeah.
where she's a really flawed character, where
Is it like, is it Mina? It's not Mina, is it?
I can't remember the name of the character's name
Yeah,
in my life.
yeah,
But I wish I could because I would make a harder reference. But yeah, I got that sense, and I'm fine with those type of the flawed characters like that. I think that we got so used to having the good girl or the good guy be the heroes and the last surviving person for so long that seeing someone flawed like these characters is refreshing. For me, anyways.
yeah. It's Mia as the character's name. name
Okay, you looked
in
it up.
the Evil Dead remake from 2013. And it replaces the Ash character in a way because Evil Dead is a remake of it, but then they switch the genders and she becomes kind of Ash in it.
Mhm.
But actually, I liked it better in Evil Dead Rise. I like the character. This sister character is a similar character in Evil Dead Rise, but somehow I like the way the actress does it a lot better in that one.
Mhm.
But she kind of comes in there like with the same kind of situation and into her sister's house, and then and she's got like lots of problems and having to stay with her sister.
Mhm.
But yeah, but but yeah, I mean, then after that we meet, like you say, we meet Colin and his, I mean, kind of Trevor and his boyfriend Colin, and Trevor is all up on her ass. He's just tired of her
Yep,
nonsense.
that's Matt. Matt's her
Yeah,
brother. Trevor's a boyfriend.
Trevor's her boyfriend. Yeah, yeah, Matt. So he's all up on her ass. He's tired of her doing it.
Yeah.
He doesn't like her having the boyfriend in there. He knows the boyfriend's a loser. She met the boyfriend at a 12-step program, and they're making these assumptions that he's a loser, and he turns out really to be one. It's just, and they are bad influence.
Bad
She
influence.
doesn't.
Like I
Yeah,
think it's a better word.
yeah. I mean, from what he's doing though, he's definitely into some bad stuff. He's a thief, and he's probably obviously like a drug addict, maybe a dealer.
I see Trevor as very similar to Riley, someone who is just doing bad things to get by with what they have and don't have. He gets involved with Voight more for monetary purposes because he's just as like Riley. They're all being manipulated by Voight. Voight, like Trevor isn't told everything. Um,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I, I
Definitely in. I mean, he's definitely in way over his head in a
yeah,
similar way that Voight's in way over his head with the Cenobites. But it's like people don't know that they're in over their head. They're going for the prize. They see the prize, and that's all they can think of
yeah.
is that. And the prize is not a prize at all when it comes down to it. It's something I think that normal people could see from the outside. You start messing with like some occult box trying to open up another dimension, and thinking it's going to end well is it's just like not a very likely scenario.
Mm. Yeah. So this leads us to what's her face? Riley leaving to go see Trevor, which she said she was not gonna see Trevor again to her brother. And she goes to see him, and he offers her the opportunity to get out of that financial situation by helping him rob what do you call those things? It's a trailer.
It's a storage unit.
Storage unit. It's a storage
It's a
unit.
store. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, it's a
yeah.
storage unit, where they're hoping that there will be lots of riches and stuff they could sell and make money from. But all they
Well,
find
he
is,
said, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
he
Yeah, that
says that.
box. Yeah,
They find
yeah,
a
yeah.
safe with a box inside. And of course, this is where you really know Trevor is manipulating on a second watch. Is like he lets Riley take it with her, instead of like taking it with him to find a buyer for it. So he already knows what it is and the purpose for it. And so when she asks for it, he said, "Oh yeah, go ahead, take it. We'll find a buyer for it. We'll sell it later. We'll split the proceeds." Whereas in reality, if I'm having my girlfriend help me break into his thing and all I find is this box that may or may not be worth a fortune, do you think I'm gonna let the girl take it with me? That's not being sexist. That's just being the character, because he's the thief.
Yeah, yeah.
He's the one that would
Right.
have someone to sell it.
Yeah, yeah, he would sell it and then give her half the money or a quarter of the money or whatever. But
Yeah.
but on top of that, while they're doing this, they get drunk
Hmm.
and maybe take some drugs. So here they are, supposed to be on this 12-step program. They're probably both on probation, and they can't like go and steal something and not get like screwed up while they're stealing something. I guess maybe it's part of it. Maybe they feel bad to steal something and they feel like they have to drink on top of that.
Hmm.
But that's what gets her in trouble with her brother because she comes back in all
She's drunk.
all like drunk or high or whatever she is,
I think she's
It's
drunk at this point. She doesn't get high until she takes the pills at the playground. I think she's drunk at
yeah,
this point. So yeah. But her brother
yeah,
assumes that she's on all of it.
yeah, yeah.
Her brother just Matt just when she gets back after doing that and having her sexual tryst with Trevor late at night, really late at night or early in the morning, depending on how you look at it. Uh, they Matt and Riley get in this huge fight. And Riley leaves.
You know,
Because
the thing about an addict, like like an alcoholic or a drug addict, like they can't have any of it. You know, once you get over past that point, if you start, it's like a relapse. If you go and get drunk, then you're relapsing into, and then he knows that she's an addict, and
yeah,
it is a relapse, and he's
yeah,
tired of it. You know, he's like, she just doesn't, she's not going to do right. He's trying to take care of her, but it's almost like some people when you try to help them too much, they basically makes it worse because some people they have to find their bottom, their in bottom before they can be helped, and she's not there yet.
that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's how I see it too. Uh, and she goes through a lot of that in this one, in this film,
Yeah.
the Riley character. Because after she leaves that house, um, she goes to the playground, that's empty in the middle of the night, and she takes the pills. Uh,
Yeah. What she's going to, I guess is she trying to kill herself or she just getting high or something?
I'm thinking she's just getting high. I don't think she tries to kill herself. She's getting high, and of course, the box, in my opinion, the box calls to her. That's how I see it when the characters start to get like entranced with the box, like Joey did at the beginning in here. Like she gets entranced with the box, but she inadvertently is smarter than Joey while trying to figure the configuration out because she knows.
Yeah, yeah. I think she's lucky. I think it's luck because the blade comes out, but it misses her because I
Uh-huh.
think she's clearly smarter than Joey, but I think just she just happens to move her hand at the right moment to miss the blade misses her
Hmm.
because when that happens and the Cenobites show up, they say the blade was meant for you, and she's like, Riley's like, who's there? And they're like, come with us. So they're trying to get her, but then they say that if she's not going to do it, she has to bring them another, and which is it's a very interesting scene. We see the chains come out from the Leviathan, and then it actually goes into her brother's room where he's asleep in the bed with Colin, and they jab into him and pull him up, but then it turns out to be a dream, which is kind of unique. It's almost like a phantasm thing there.
Yeah.
It's but then he's not. He doesn't have the chains in him. He's just awake, and then it calls him. Like that's another calling from the puzzle box. It brings him there to find her.
Hmm.
Um, I think the puzzle box, like you're saying, it calls people, but I think they have to be a certain type of person. They have to be somebody who's going to be ready to encounter it, or to be manipulated by it. But here, he shows up and he finds her like passed out, and she is. I think she seems to be overdosing, or he thinks that she is, and he's going to have to call an ambulance. And then he accidentally gets cut by the box, and it cuts him pretty deeply in his hand. So his hand's going to require some major stitches. But
But
then yeah. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, but as he like lifts Riley up to try and get her to get quickly aware and sober, he goes to wash his hands off. We get to see the cut in his hand much deeper, and of course,
Yeah.
that's when the Cenobites come to get him. But we don't really see him getting ripped apart. We just or we are go back out with Riley, and she
Yeah.
hears it.
Right. Here's a screen. We do see the bath. He goes in the bathroom, and we do see the hell dimension
Yeah.
starting to open up. Like the bathroom becomes bigger, which is a pretty cool effect. Which I'm not sure exactly how it was accomplished, whether it was done with like practically with a set, or if it was done like CGI or something. But it looks pretty convincing.
Well, look at this. Every time that happens in this movie, where someone gets cut and we start to see the hell dimension, it's really fucking cool the way they do it in this film. When Nora's in the back of the van and she
Yeah,
finds
yeah.
herself in the hell dimension. Um,
The back of the van, especially because it almost looks like, someone's starting to slowly like faint or go away, and the back of the van becomes very large and
yeah,
elongated as she's pulled backwards into this other dimension. And
yeah.
it's pretty gruesome what happens to her specifically. She gets flayed alive.
Well, the other thing I really loved is the fact that the hell dimension kind of opens up in front of all of them several times. Like we see it open up through the roads, and they're all able to all three of them are able to see it at that point. At that point, it's Colin, I believe Colin, Riley, and Trevor who can all see it.
Right,
So
yeah, they're in the van trying to drive away and it keeps opening up and
yeah,
and yeah.
yeah. I really like that's something that you don't necessarily see in any of the previous movies. A lot of times it's really just a singular person thing. But I like how it comes in and out in this film. It's visually cool. A lot of times the van one, I just really love the way they did it in the van. But yeah, it happened several times. I really like that.
Right. But then when she wakes up and he's gone, Matt's gone at the playground, and then she calls the cops, and they can't find him. He's disappeared. We do see like the Cenobites for the first time before that. We're talking to her, so it was kind of it. They look pretty cool when we see them,
Hmm.
and then after that, it's she has a vision of the Chatterer Cenobite. Like she next day, like her and Trevor are like I think they're having sex, and then the Cenobite like shows up in the room,
Yeah.
and then it's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
I
it's
can't
another.
remember if that happened a lot in the other films, where the main character would have like dreams or nightmares of the Cenobites like that, other than Inferno, because it just seemed like I can't remember all the details of Inferno, but it seemed like Craig Schaefer's character was just stuck in a loop of nightmare in that film. I don't. So other than that film, I'm not sure if the characters in the real world had nightmares of the Cenobites like she does in this.
Yeah, I think it's the Cenobites are trying to get her to continue on, which the next thing is that they go to investigate the box because she asks Trevor's like, where did you get this from? And then he's like, they track down Serena, who's now an assisted living facility,
Mhm.
and she seems to be dying from some kind of lung disease or something like that. She's having to wear a respirator. Um, and then during the course of talking to her, like she gets cut with the blade herself, and then they end up taking her, and we see more with her than we did with Matt. But I think with each person we see a little bit more, which is an interesting way of doing it. So that way they don't have to go all in with each kill and come up with the different ways of killing them. You just kind of see a little bit more each time.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting observation. I didn't think about that.
I did see the pillar box in when Serena goes into the hell dimension, the pillar box that you see at the first time at the end of Hellraiser 2 that comes out of the mattress, the
Hmm.
revolving pillar that in
Pillar
the
of
third one.
Souls.
Yeah, Pillar of Souls. Yeah, you do see that when she's in there. That's about 43 minutes into it. Now this movie's 2 hours long, which is a little long for a Hellraiser film, I think.
I was the same thing at the very beginning. I was looking. Oh, I looked at the runtime and said, "Oh, is this the longest of all the Hellraiser movies?"
Yeah, yeah. It seems a little long. I don't know. I kind of, I like them about an hour 45 minutes. I think but the ending of this is really awesome. But there may be some parts that maybe could have trimmed earlier on. But it's I don't know. What it does seem like a little long. I think.
I think trying to reestablish the world and give more kind of background to the world is probably why. Because remember the first one, there's very little mentioned about the Cinemites until they really show up towards the end. It's really about the whole
Yeah.
Frank character and the relationship between all of the characters, and not so much about the Cinemites. In this one, there's an entire backstory of stuff that's going on behind all the characters' backs when it comes into Voight territory. Um,
Right.
like we didn't, so I think that right there adds a little bit more time to the story. Because you mentioned Serena gets sucked into the hell world after accidentally getting cut, and then I think the next person is Nora.
Right, yeah, but after Serena though, that's when they Riley goes and does research on the computer, and she
Yeah.
finds Voight's mansion, and then actually goes to the mansion herself. I think, I mean, there is the pacing is a little deliberate in the first half. Once we get to Voight's mansion, and there's a lot of there's some time in between this when she gets to Voight's mansion and when Nora gets killed. There is like time there. The mansion is a really cool set,
Hmm.
but it's that she gets there around like 45 minutes into the film, and then Nora, the back of the van stuff happens about an hour and 5 minutes in. So it's like 15 minutes of time between her getting to the mansion, and then she finds like the book in the mansion, and then everybody shows up, and then there's like she basically when she's in the mansion, and then everybody shows up there, like her boyfriend and Colin and Nora, and and then it's like she even sees her brother again too. There's another scene with him showing up, which I think is partially a dream maybe, but when she goes to hug him, his back is all missing, like it's been ripped off. It's just like muscles and bone, like blood and stuff, like flayed alive maybe. But then that's when everybody shows up, and then there's some of them hanging out in the house for a little bit. So some of that seems like a little long, I think, especially after they show up, and then there's like this. I know they don't want to go right into Nora getting killed because it becomes like Voight's hiding in the walls. We
Yeah,
don't know that.
that's what I
Yeah,
was going to worry.
yeah,
That's what I was trying to get to. That like,
yeah,
there's a lot more story because Voight ends up hiding in the walls, and we don't know who it is at first. Uh,
yeah,
because we
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, we see like glimpses of who it is.
So we
But
got established. Yeah, all that's got to be established, and it's got
yes,
to
gotta be
be played
established.
with a little bit. I don't think the scene would necessarily be long if it wasn't so far into the movie, because
Mm,
it's like here we are about an hour into the movie, and it feels like we need 30 more minutes to the film, but there's an hour left. Saying so. I don't know. I mean, but at the same time, I I think a lot that what happens in the second half is really solid. I think the first half is a little the first half's a little slower, but it's almost like it's almost like they could maybe cut down that first half, maybe 10 minutes out of it, and then cut out part of this last half to make it a little shorter, but
I,
maybe 15. I think it's about 10 or 15 minutes longer than it needs to be.
you
But
think so?
that's what my thought is on it. But yeah,
I
I hate yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, until we did we started recording this, I didn't realize it was a 2 hour movie. To be honest with you, I never realized it. I do believe that you are right in that. I think somewhere in at the time when Voight stabs Nora with the configuration, and they have the scene outside of the house as they're driving, and then
Yeah.
they have to get back to the mansion because that's the only place they can get back to. I think that right there may have been a little long, if not, the fact that it's such a cool sequence to
Yeah.
put out.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of
You know?
cool stuff going on, but yeah, I hate to pick with times sometimes. Sometimes I feel like movies lately have gotten longer than they used to be, and it's kind of like a because it's almost if you were to look at this as two episodes of a show, and it was made, I guess it was made for Hulu. I don't know if it was intended to ever be in the theater, but I don't know. I think if it had been in the theater, they may have tried to cut it down, maybe.
I honestly do not know how the rights for this got to Hulu. I don't know if this is a 20th century. Studios property because originally it was the Dimensions property. And I'm assuming that they lost the rights after Judgment. So
Yeah.
I do not know exactly how it came to Hulu, to be honest with you. It could have been something that Disney slash 20th Century Studios slash Hulu purchased from the actual production company itself that produced and made the movie. I don't know. This one is one I don't know the background for this one, to be honest with you. I don't.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's some of us maybe, but at the same time, I guess we'd probably stop nitpicking on the timing of it, but talk about the movie.
Well,
But
the thing is, you nitpick, but the fact of the matter is, the rest of this movie takes place at the mansion. So for a huge chunk of the entire movie is at the mansion. There's the sequences at the very beginning. There's the ending. So a lot of this is in the mansion itself. Um,
yeah, I
I
think
don't.
I really like that Voight character, and he's
Mhm.
off screen for almost like an hour because you see him at the beginning, and then he's off screen until the second hour into the film when you start to kind of see him again.
Yeah.
But I mean, I almost feel like that character needs. I almost felt like it could have like been in it, throughout the film. I feel like they needed to get to the mansion earlier than they did.
Yeah, and you might be right about that. I don't know how much of this film was designed to be kind of a mystery, so that the audience only gets a parcel of information. I know that with the original Hellraiser, we aren't told a lot of information on purpose, but in this film, they do a lot of explaining everything.
Yeah,
I do know that's the feeling I get the difference between the two movies, the original and this one. It's like the first one, the Clive Barker one, doesn't explain a lot on purpose, and this one tries to maybe to your defense over explain. I don't know. I would like to. I would really love to ask someone who has never seen the original Hellraiser films and just seen this one to ask them what they thought about that. As someone who's seen literally all of the Hellraiser movies, I found, like I said before at the beginning of our conversation, I found this one to be one of the better ones because of the amount of stuff that they did to set it apart from the previous movies. I like the mythology building in this one, and there's a lot of mythology building in this movie. Uh,
right. Yeah, yeah. I thought all that was pretty cool. I've seen like I was reading around, around online, some people not necessarily liking that they changed it, but the new blade coming out of the box, cutting people. But I think it's a kind of a cool thing to kind of change it up a little bit, add some different aspects to it.
Yeah, and I
Um,
like. I mean, when you look at the box, because we get with this film, we get a lot of close-ups on the intricate design of the Lamont configuration in this film, and I think they did a really good job of it. Yes, the blade is different; it's new, but I'm like, it's not just a blade that just comes out and just kills people. It has a purpose. It more or less, in my opinion, anyways, it not only marks the victim but it
yeah.
also sends them into a state of euphoria, in my opinion. And before they get ripped apart by the Cenobites, they are in a state of euphoria, almost a state of pleasure, or at least what the Cenobites think of as pleasure.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, so that's how
It's
I
kind of yeah,
see it. So
yeah.
I actually like that aspect of it. Instead,
Yeah, I wonder though if there's more than one box. Like the other, like this isn't possible. It's probably isn't the same box as the other films. Maybe there's different boxes.
yeah, it's interesting because the way that Voight, who is the occultist person who found the box, explains it as it being the only box out there. But as we all know, in like the Hellraiser lore, like Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, there are lots of Lamont configurations out there. Although if you go by Bloodline, he only made one box. So who made the other
Yeah.
boxes? I don't know.
Yeah, the Lamont configuration is like the normal square box on
But
this.
well,
The Lamont
in the previous movies, the box itself is just called that because it was built by
it's called Lamont.
yeah,
Yeah, I got you. I see what you're saying. That's why it's called the Lamont configuration in this one. But this box can change
yeah.
because
It
the other
has
box
different
did. Yeah,
forms.
yeah. I was
Their
gonna
boxes changed too. They just didn't change nearly as much.
right, yeah, but this one gets elongated and it starts
Yeah.
looking weird and and all this, and it looks eventually like a double-sided blade for the Leviathan configuration.
I like
Um,
that. I
yeah,
like that.
yeah. It's pretty cool, but it's definitely different than the other ones. It's going to makes me think that it's more than one box because the box didn't initially. I mean, unless it's just this is like just completely different outside of the other Hellraisers film. I guess and maybe it is. Maybe it's just like a complete reboot of the other ones. But it almost like to think that it would like, it's just a different box and it's in the same universe.
That's how I've always thought of this movie until this conversation. I just kind of thought it was one of the many different boxes out there. Uh, I think, and the fact that a lot of the stuff is not explained in the previous movies means that, even if you believe that there are six, configurations, for this box, there could be six configurations to all the other ones. We just haven't, they're just not defined. Like when we see the autistic girl in the second one doing the box, you see it go to different configurations as she's solving it.
Yeah,
Uh,
right.
but there's no blade that comes out, which, and she doesn't get killed immediately by the Cenobites, like Kirsty doesn't get killed when she first solves the box either. It just depends on who solves it and how you solve it.
It's almost like I mean, it should always be the intent. I mean, I think that people are often tricked into solving the box, but I think that the idea is you solve the box because you want to encounter the prize that you're given from the box, or you want to be in this other dimension. So it to me, it's almost like when someone's tricked into solving the box, you think that the Cenobites would be like, that don't even count because you don't even want to be here, It's like they want people who want to be there, but I guess they're gonna take whoever. Yes.
Well, no, you bring up a very valid point because most of the time when we see the Cenobites, they actually revel in the pleasure that they give people in pain who also want to experience that same pleasure. But someone who accidentally opens the portal means that they don't want to be here.
Yeah.
So why are we like, well, we don't want to take him. He doesn't want to be here. He's not going to have fun with our pain is pleasure. I
Yeah.
think. So yeah, the way you look at it, yes, yeah, it seems kind of weird,
Yeah. But this I wrote down some dialogue from this part where Riley talks to the priest, like the van crashes after they take Nora, and Riley um she takes the box, she's going to throw it into the water, but then the priest appears and then she talks to her a little bit. Riley asks her what she is, and then the priest says, explores in the further regions of experience, of sensations, rim, our gifts are boundless. And then she says some other stuff, and then she eventually says two more deaths and her brother will be hers, like she can get her brother back, but two more people have to be sacrificed to get, to make that happen.
Hmm.
So she does give Riley an opportunity. That's what she's given her, an opportunity to bring her brother back. But even though they're the ones that took her brother away to begin with, and at that point the box does cut Riley.
Hmm.
But they treat Riley different than anyone else who's been cut by the box. I think they've maybe developed a different appreciation for her, so since she was able to avoid the blade the first time.
Hmm. I thought about the very first time I saw the movie, I thought about that too. But when I was rewatching it, I kind of saw that as something similar to what happens with the Kirsty character in the first one. Um, I think the Cenobites in the way they're depicted in here, in my opinion, I think they want to find someone like the Void character who wants to experience what their idea of pleasure and pain is. And they could see in Riley that she's not only just a drug addict and everything else, but she also is someone who's hurting internally and might be a kindred soul or spirit or whatever you have that will actually find pleasure in their ideals of pleasure and pain, which is why they kind of gravitate towards her. It's kind of like the talk that the priest has with the Voight character, where they ask the Voight character, well, you don't enjoy our gift. I can't remember the exact wording, but they kind of asked, "You don't enjoy our gift? We gave you the greatest gift there was. We gave you what you asked for, but it's not
Right.
exactly what he thought he was asking for. I think that the Cenobites see something very similar in the Riley character, but Riley is not at that point yet where she would like give into um their what do you say, their pleasures like the Voight character did. She's conflicted because she
Yeah.
wouldn't sacrifice her friends for it. But that's what the Cenobites are
Yeah.
asking to make the ultimate
Yeah. Yeah.
sacrifice.
Yeah. I mean, they make it a good point because they do see her as a person who's gonna make the choice at the end, like Voice did. Like she's the
Mhm.
one who gets the prize at the end, but she has to give them two more other people. Yeah, I mean, the rules are a little weird because I guess there are people that they want who aren't necessarily puzzle solvers. They want random victims, it seems like, because they're asking her for two other people that in order to for her to get the prize, which is she can pick one of the six configurations, which one of them might bring her brother back. I guess love or something like that if she picked that one.
Lazarus resurrection.
Yeah, resurrection. That's right. Yeah, duh. Yeah. Resurrection. Yeah, yeah. That's what. Yeah, that's what she wants is the Lazarus resurrection. But at the same time, it is kind of weird though because it's like someone gets cut and then they are taken, but here she's not taken. But I don't know. It's almost like you have to. Almost like if you're the puzzle solver like Voight initially was, I wonder how he even avoided getting cut and how he must have known the rules to begin with to be able to feed it different people.
I get the sense that because they set up Voight as being an occultist who studied this stuff long beforehand, before he was able to actually acquire it, that he had already talked to people and gotten lots of stuff from people who either knew of the box or had experienced something from the box. Because that's how I see all of these films in the Hellraiser universe. It's kind of like a hearsay type of thing. You know about the box because someone that knows someone has told you about that box. And
Yeah,
as an occultist, he's just gathered information over the years until he was able to find the current owner of the box.
yeah. One thing, but after she's given this information from the priest about that she has to give it two more souls,
Mm-hmm.
that she figures something out. Like her the blade comes back out and she stabs it into a Cenobite, and then that Cenobite is taken by the chains and pulled apart. The Chatter Cenobite. It's kind of odd that you could stab something that's already
Yeah.
in the hell dimension, and that could be okay. That it seems kind of a cheat to me a little bit. I don't know.
I I do want to say that I will agree with you on that one. I do think that is a little bit of a cheat. I would think that would be I think that was just I hate to say this, that was a plot device to allow Riley a means to try and defeat a Cenobite. Um, with the
Yeah, not but
original
not yeah.
Hellraiser, there is no way to defeat the Cenobites in the first Hellraiser. You have to give them what they asked for or what you promised them. That's
Yeah.
how this first film ended originally. So
It,
having that was a little bit, in my opinion, I'm gonna go with you on that. It felt like a little bit of a cheat. It felt like a little bit of a cheat.
it's yeah, it's almost like it's hard because I guess there's six configurations, but I guess they're only having her kill four people. Well, there's five people, including like the Serena, because there's her brother Matt, Serena, um,
Nora?
Nora, and then they say two more, which is five people. I guess you only have to kill five people. Maybe the sixth person is yourself who would get the prize, you know. I don't
They,
but there's
yeah,
six
they
configurations.
they say whoever's holding it in the sixth configuration will be granted a audience with God. So maybe there doesn't have to be six victims. They just have to be five victims, and then that it transforms into the last configuration, and that's when you get an audience with God. I didn't think about that
Right.
either until now. You brought that up, and I didn't even think about the numbers like that.
Yeah. I was just trying to think about the math of it. But but they've given us enough characters for it to be five. But script wise, they wanted one of the characters to survive. So they killed a Cenobite instead. That makes it so she has to choose between her boyfriend and her brother's boyfriend as the last victim.
Yeah. Well. Keep in mind they also tried to capture one of them to do it to kill again, like they did Chatterer.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. I mean, yeah, but that's kind of the plot thing, though. I think that
yeah.
they
I think
set it
that's the
up.
plot thing. Yeah.
Yeah, they set it up so she has to make that decision, but the decision is made for her
Yeah.
because she finds out her boyfriend's been like manipulating her. But
Yeah.
you know, but it might have been a stronger decision had she had to make the decision though, and not have like an out of her boyfriend's a shithead that might as well just pick him because the other guy's like a good guy, you know?
Yeah. No, I will disagree with you on that one. I think it's about the same thing. I think, yeah. And I think that those are the plot things that we have to deal with when we're talking about a movie like this. Uh, but I mean, for me, it didn't take away too much for the film. That was probably the biggest thing is that them using a box to kill another Cinemite. I thought that was a part of a cop out there, but you know.
Yeah, but I think her having to make that decision too is it makes the character like hard to like too because then of course it's like at that point what do you do when you have two people who you don't have an easy out if you don't have somebody who's a villain.
Well, that's why who stab is it? I think it is Voight that stabs Colin with the configuration, right?
Yeah. He gets the box twice. He gets it and stabs Nora, and then he
Yeah.
gets it again because people like they keep like losing the box. Like they keep not holding on to it. Like and then he gets it and he stabs people with it.
Well, you know what? The first time with Nora, you can understand that they don't understand exactly how important the box is, so you can understand that one. But with Colin, it seems like okay, you drop the box, and then 2 seconds later, when Riley can't get to it, they can't find Colin can't find the box, and he ends up getting stabbed in the back with it. I was like, oh Jesus, man!
But yeah, I think he stabs him like in the front of it. Like,
Stabs in the front.
yeah, he seems like he stabs him really good, and he seems like he almost would be morally wounded, but he seems still like moving around.
He's moving
But
around.
before that happens, though, it's kind of goofy what they do because once they find out about the Cenobite and stabbing the Cenobite, they go out. They think the Cenobites are stupid, you know. They think they're like really dumb, and then they go out and she acts like she's going to give her soul to them, and they're all drooling at the mouth. Okay, cool. And then she tricks one of them into coming inside the mansion, and then they close the door on it, and then they're going to try to stab it, and it just all doesn't work out. But
It doesn't work out because their plan is flawed.
yeah,
And plus, that would be a cop out for us as audience members to see them kill another Cenobite that way. I think I would have hated them doing that. I think that would have,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but but then it's after that, then you know, he stabs Colin like Voight does, which causes we see the flashback of after that point we see the flashback where it briefly shows what happened to Roland after the first scene of the film,
Hmm. Oh,
and then you
that's
see
right.
him.
That's when that comes in.
Yeah. Well, he does have this. I don't think we mentioned it. We kind of mentioned it briefly, but Roland Voight's got this contraption going all the way through his body, through his chest, that every few moments it twists and turns and it gives him like incredible pain. Um,
Over and over and
yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. But it's and he says Roland Voight says, "I sought pleasure, but all they have to give is pain. It's a trick." And then yeah, but so they tricked him, but he says their thoughts of sensation because he picked like liminal, which is sensation, and instead of sensation, that's what their thoughts of sensation was. Is like every time you think you're okay, suddenly it just twists on you and puts you back in pain.
yeah. Yeah, it's kind of jarring to see this contraption sticking from the front of him through the back and just going through his entire chest area. And then, of
Right,
course,
yeah.
when it falls apart and you see this big gaping hole inside of it, it's kind of like, Jesus.
Yeah. Because before that, the box does turn into the Leviathan configuration, and then and then it opens like the portal that has blood on it, and then it opens the portal to from the into the ceiling, and we see an outside of the house of the mansion, and it looks like instead of it looking like a normal outside of the mansion, they're in the hell maze from Hellraiser 2,
Hmm.
and the Leviathan itself comes out of the sky and it comes towards the house, and then Voight he thinks he's got a plan. He shuts all the doors on the Cenobites and he has them trapped, and he says he won't let them go until they take the contraption out of him. So I guess he does. It does work in a way. What he does because Riley's got the box. She takes the box and runs, but Void is his plan is to trap the Cenobites and make them take the contraption out of him.
Yeah. Well, I think yeah, he gets the Cenobites, and then hopefully he'll give granted an audience with Leviathan again to remove it, or in their eyes get a different wish, so to speak.
Well,
Uh,
yeah, that's what ends up happening. But I think he just wants to be cured at that point.
yeah,
But she actually says that that's not possible. She says she tells him that it can be exchanged. The gifts can be exchanged, but they can't be returned. So uh and also during there's like a back and forth. It cuts back and forth between Voight and it cuts back to Colin, who Colin's like been since he got stabbed. He's in the hell dimension, and then they're wrapping him with these kind of it's
like
like a wire. It's kind of wrapping him,
I thought it
but
was like piano wires, like all of
yeah,
his limbs instead of chains,
yeah,
like being embedded into his flesh. It's the piano wire that wraps around him completely, which I thought was even harder to watch. I was like, oh man, that's got to cut through that skin and it hurt. Uh,
right.
yeah. But then Riley it makes her decision about who to sacrifice, or who will be sacrificed. I guess she chooses Trevor, who he's learned has been manipulating her. So uh,
Yeah. So
she's
then she switches it out to him, and then he gets it, and which 'cause I guess that all worked out in the end. But then like when Voight here's I got the dialogue here. So Voight's like sees the priest, and she comes in, and he's like the priest says there is no retreat once the threshold has been crossed. All you can do is search for greater thresholds. Gifts cannot be ungiven. Only exchanges can be made. Perhaps you prefer another. And then she's like, you never sought sensation. It's power that you want, which is we offer you the Leviathan configuration. And then that Leviathan configuration, he at first what you said, they take the contraption out, it falls on the floor, his body's healed, and he thinks everything's good, but then this big chain just comes out and goes right through his chest again, and then eventually takes him. So he's kind of been given that like Leviathan configuration because he can't be returned to the real world because he's made the choice to open the portal to begin with.
yeah. Well,
However, there is a loophole we find out with Riley because Riley also has to make that same choice,
mhm.
but she doesn't make that same. She chooses instead of choosing Lazarus, which is resurrection, she chooses the lament, which is the original configuration and is life. And, so it's pretty funny actually what happens there because it's almost like that's another instance where I think the Cenobites don't quite understand what it means. They're saying that life is also bad, because she gets to live, but they consider that one of the punishments.
yeah,
And
well,
here's yeah, yeah.
life without without their pleasures would be worse in their eyes.
But it was yeah. What's funny is because Roland could have picked the same thing. He just didn't know. But here's what they say. To them, this is probably like the worst of all of them. They tell her like you have a choice, life of regret, knowing everything you have done, everyone you have hurt and lost. Your suffering has barely begun. You choose to live. You carry that weight, bitter and brief. You choose the lament configuration. So, but it's almost like it reminds me of like this scene in A Christmas Story when the the kids like they're telling his friends or not telling his friends. He's like, the teachers like you never tell on your friends sort of thing. But it's almost like that. It's almost like it's like okay, yeah, 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 you're right. It's gonna be really bad, I guess. Yeah, I guess lament you got me. You know. It's just-
Oh my God. Yeah, but I do like the fact that they do explain each of those things. And then of course visually you get to see them. And this whole journey that she's gone through, it has been a growth thing for her. Um, More so than what I saw in Kirsty's character in the original one. And maybe even Kirsty's character over the course of the first two movies, actually. Um, I had to think about that
well,
again.
yeah, yeah, we get yeah, yeah. With this choice at the end
Hmm.
that she makes, but because she chooses. Here's the thing: is she could have chosen resurrection and brought her brother back, but she knows it's a trick. She's been told it's a trick. It's just like a trick of her previous like life. Like it's a trick. Her boyfriend tricked her. It's a trick to start taking drugs again. You're going to fall back into your addiction,
Hmm.
and it might help. It might help your suffering briefly, but you're going to be back in this bad spot. So, but she chooses to live, and it's a pretty important decision that she makes there, which is it's nice that they give that to her, and she's able to make that decision. I think it's a pretty powerful moment.
Yeah. No, no. I think that having that type of moment in this movie elevates it more so than some of the other ones. I have to go back when we go back and rewatch the other ones. I'm gonna pay really close attention to how the resolution with the main character is in each of them, especially with like Inferno. I think, and maybe even Hellseeker with the way they ended. I want to check those out because I think with this one, the way in which the story unfolds and the themes based on the characters, especially the Voight character, and his journey and Riley are very interesting because these are two different people from two different walks of life. Riley is poor, barely getting by, and Voight is this rich occultist who kind of gets whatever he wants, even if it's to the detriment of his. I hate to say the soul, so to speak. When we
Yeah.
talk about souls, we talk about Hellraiser, so to speak. But it's interesting to watch and see over the course of this 2 hour movie these two different people's experiences going through the same experience with the Lamont configuration of the Cenobites.
Yeah, yeah. And yes, and then after that, it is nice that they don't have a lot of times in horror movies they want to give you they do give you a horrific ending after this, but it's nice that
Oh yeah.
they don't have contempt for the Riley character,
No.
in a way that, which I mean, they don't go, it's a good thing because she starts dark and she picks the light at the end of the movie. Now, this, what the priest says, and she tells her she's gonna have to live with regret, knowing everything. I mean, obviously, I think that could be referring, which I think it's intended to be referring to her regretting not bringing her brother back and feeling guilty about her brother's death. But
Mm.
I hope that that's not what she learns from this. I hope that she learns that to embrace life instead of living with that regret. I mean, obviously she's going to have to live with this regret. She's already regretting, even at the beginning of the film, she's regretting all of her decisions, but she can't stop making bad
Yeah.
decisions.
Huh, kind of like the Voight character can't stop making bad decisions.
Yeah, yeah. The Void character is well, the Void character is just out. I think he's like one of those who's we've seen in a lot of other horror movies where there's like a really rich guy who's just bored with life and it gets into the occult and wants like a something more interesting. Like we would see that one like what was it Taste the Blood of Dracula, where that group of people get in with the
Yes.
occultists and end up getting in a place where they realize that this is worse than being bored. Now
Yes.
we are in, this is not, and then it seems like he regretted what had happened because he's constantly in pain and he's trying to stop that from happening. And who knows what would have happened had he been healed and been able to go on with his life. And he probably wouldn't have changed too much, but he might have been calmer with the occult stuff. He probably would have been like just like he
Well,
probably would have enjoyed life for a little bit after that instead of trying to destroy it.
Well, that's the other thing I liked about this, about the Voight character in particular, is the fact that he's an occultist. So you would think he's the character that you would think would seek out the Lamont configuration. Um, Kind of like the Frank character in the original Hellraiser. I don't, to be
Yeah,
honest with you, I never really thought most of the other characters in most of these films would ever seek out the puzzle box, but the Frank character and the Voight character definitely seems like characters that would seek out the box, which would mean
right. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah. There were characters that did, but I think that because he had that damn thing through his chest and it was constant pain that he was like, man, this sucks. This is not what I had. This is not what I had in mind at all.
uh, but it
It's
was
like,
really cool.
yeah. He's like, these guys isn't what these guys aren't on the level. Um,
Oh Jesus! Oh man!
yeah, I was gonna read this real quick. But when he's lifted up, like the Voight character, the
Yeah.
chains come through him, and he's lifted up to the ceiling, and then the priest says, "You will know our finest gifts," and then she says the same line that Doug Bradley says before. She's like, "We have such sights to show you," which
Mhm.
is cool that they pulled that line and said it again.
Yeah. Well, the film ends with what happens to him, and I thought this was a great way to end the movie, with his transformation into I, I can't even describe exactly what or who or he's transformed into, but it reminds me of a
Yeah,
better sequence than the Chenard being you know changed in Hellbound Hellraiser 2 at the end of towards the end of that one. That wouldn't happen.
yeah. That was yeah, that doctor character in the second
Dr.
one. I was
Chenard.
thinking, yeah, I was thinking that too. This is different because it is the Leviathan configuration, but it's pretty gruesome looking. He don't seem like he's having a good time with it.
It's gruesome, but it's lit so brightly and
Yeah,
white,
yeah,
and it seems angelic, and it's so horrifying to
yeah.
watch. As
Yeah,
like,
they start ripping parts of his body, like his skin's like rolls off in certain places around his cheeks,
yep,
and it's like and he's completely bald all of a sudden. It does look like the Doctor and Hellbound too.
yeah,
It's it, it's a pretty cool id scene. They turn him into like a new Cenobite, which is he's on a like almost like a it's not really a cross, but it's on
No.
something like that. He's like attached to it.
Yeah, yeah. I actually like that. I wasn't sure. I wasn't, when I watched this, and I tried to rectify this in my brain when I was watching this. I wasn't sure if he was another Cenobite or not. He seemed like he's gonna be oh God, it's not is it Prometheus who had the guts plucked out of him, the Greek mythology.
Oh yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know on
Shit, I
that one.
forgot. I
Yeah.
think it's Prometheus. Prometheus gave fire to yeah, I think it's Prometheus who was stuck chained to a mountain and had his guts eaten out every day by
Oh geez, yeah.
birds. I That's how I see this guy. I see him now as someone who's up on a pedestal who can't remove, but is in constant pain over and over and over and over again for eternity. And that's kind of a really depressing yet beautifully realized ending to the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah, yeah. Because it's like, of course, going forward, if they did make a sequel to this, it would be really tough for him to do anything since he's up on that pedestal and his face is all jacked up, because but I don't think they are making a sequel to this, but if they continue, I don't, who knows if they would like keep that character, show him again. They probably wouldn't, but because
I def-
it would be a hard one to, because if they turn him into a Cenobite, because if he showed up, he'd have to be like roaming around, kind of like the Doctor did in the other one. It was kind of similar. He was attached to something too that he had to
yeah.
be moved around, so it could have been like that.
I think I think that was just a great way to end the movie, and kind of open up the world a lot more, um, to other sequels, potential sequels that hopefully would not use other unfilmed scripts and just incorporate Hellraiser elements into them. I believe that this film right here shows the people who have the rights to Hellraiser what the possibilities can be if you put a little bit of thought into the world in which you are playing in, the sandbox you're playing in. Sort of like what Dan Trachtenberg has done with the last three Predator films for Hulu as well. People weren't expecting anything from what he did, and he has crafted an entirely new mythology to that whole thing. I was hoping that this would be really successful and we'd see something like that, but I don't know honestly. I really enjoyed the film and read nothing but a lot of great things about the film, but I just also know that there are a lot of diverse of people who did not like the movie for various reasons, like you mentioned.
I think one of the biggest issues was the timing of it coming out during that pandemic
COVID.
and right after it, and it was like it was dropped on Hulu without a proper release, and certain people who have Hulu might have saw it, but I I don't I do think it is well done. They mostly embrace the Hellraiser aspects from they have callbacks to the original Hellraiser. It doesn't feel like the original four Hellraisers. It would be nice. It'd be nice if they did if they do have to do a remake after this again, have to if they have to start over, if they brought it back to fill in like the other ones. But I do like the new stuff, but something about it, it doesn't quite feel the same, but it actually has similar elements. Like the characters kind of are similar to the characters. I don't know why it doesn't quite feel like a Hellraiser film though.
So just so you know, my background with Hellraiser far expands past the movies. Since I've read all of the comic books and all the stuff that they crafted around this. And if you've ever, for the listeners out there who have read the comic books, that far took Clive Barker's original vision. The anthology format was what the Hellraiser universe did really well. So the stories were all loosely based, and they just kind of did whatever they wanted to in the comic book format. That's kind of what I like, which is why I don't judge the later sequels too badly. I kind of always saw them as like just one little story within the Hellraiser universe, and you either like it or you don't like it, but you don't have to like all of them. There are crazy stories out there about the Hellraiser universe, and this one's just another one that just takes a different branch off the same tree.
Yeah.
Uh, and I'm sure, you know what? I don't want a sequel to this as I do just another good Hellraiser movie. I think Hellraiser is a property that you could get away with just having just make a really good movie and just keep you can use the same Cenobites if you like. You know, I would hard. I mean, some of the comic books did not always use the Pinhead character, but you could, I guess, shoehorn Pinhead slash the priest into every one of the movies like they did in the previous sequels. But the Cenobite world is so vast and so huge. There's so many possibilities that you can use outside of just these main characters. I would like to see something like that, like what Dave Trachtenberg did with the fucking Predator franchise. You know, I think it'd be brave. I think they'd have to be brave. I do think they'd have to be brave. I think the easiest thing would be just to do what most audiences are accustomed to seeing. I really do. But I think you can be brave with something like this. So, yeah.
Right.
So, Dave, any other words from you in regard to this film? All right. Dave, I do want to thank you for joining us on the program as we talked about Hellraiser from 2022. What we do now for everyone who's listening is we love to rate the films between 1 and 5, 1 being poor, 5 being amazing. But we like to do it a little bit differently by using an object, quote, or saying from the film in order to attribute to our ratings. What is your rating for this film, and what quote, object, or saying would you like to attribute to this rating, Dave?
Well, what I think I'm going to pick the Leviathan configuration of the box, and it's a I think they did a really good job with this. It does deserve to be seen more. I think it's an underrated film, and it would have been nice if it had theatrical, more people saw it. But I'm going to give it 3.5 on it. I think they did a good job with it.
Okay, I still really enjoyed the film even after we had our conversation and I saw some of the things that it might be little bitty flaws, but I really enjoyed the Hellraiser universe, and I really enjoyed that this one for me felt like a real honest to God sequel to the original films that Clive Barker crafted. And so I'm going to give it a I was about to say 4 star. I'm not going to give it 4 stars. I'm going to give it 4 giant chains ripping through the center of Voight's body. I try and be a little bit violent with my ratings, but you know what? This is
Yeah,
so we're gonna go with chains, and I love the chains.
yeah. The chains are
And I'm a
cool, and
huge fan of
yeah.
Hellraiser, and I will watch this one far above the other probably previous 4 sequels, I believe.
Yeah, I think of all the Hellraiser, there's a few of them I hadn't seen, but I'm probably going to would land this at number 5 in the list of rankings of the Hellraiser films. I think the first 4 are the best, but it's the best after that I've seen. And I know the ones I've seen aren't any better because I've heard a lot worse stuff about them.
I actually put this one at number 3. I'm still a guilty pleasure. The first one's still my guilty pleasure. It's Clive Barker's first movie, so
Yeah,
the
yeah,
flaws make it great. The second one, Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, I saw it at the theater and I fucking love that movie. I'm like, dude, I love that
yeah,
movie.
yeah.
I could watch it any time of
Second
day.
one's
This one,
awesome.
this one, I believe for me is better than the other ones. I'm not a huge fan of Hellraiser 3. It's fun. Hellraiser Bloodline, I thought was, I put that. I like that one more than people think.
Yeah, the
Like that
most
one.
people were kind
Yeah,
of up in arms about that one. I liked
yeah,
it.
no,
Yeah, I think that, but I saw that third one again recently. And I think it holds up pretty good. I thought it's kind of got. I mean, it's got some cheesy stuff in it, but I think it holds up all right.
that's the one I loved because it had Terry Farrell in it, which I love, who I used to love.
Yeah,
And I have not seen it in
yeah.
years, so it's gonna
Oh
be
yeah, watch
interesting.
it on TV. Yeah, yeah. I think that it's cool that for the first time, like the Pinhead character's in that one a lot,
Yeah,
unlike the other ones. It's like you might I don't know if you noticed it, like, but but like he is not in the first two that much.
No, no, he's not. I recognize that the third film he's in it the most. Like that is Pinhead's film. It's the third one. Yeah, it is. And there's some great visuals in that movie. There's some great visuals in that movie. And,
It gets so goofy near the end when they turn all the Cenobites into like these, because one of them turns into like a video camera head, and then the CD guy. I don't know. I still think it's cool though. I know a lot of people were like, "Man, that's just they went a little too far with that."
No, when that movie came out, there were a lot of people who loved seeing these new Cenobites, dude. But when we get around to that one, oh, it's going to be fun. I think it'll be fun to just revisit that one. Out of all the movies in the franchise, I think it'll be fun to revisit that one. And Bloodline. To be honest with you, I think those would be the most fun to revisit. So
yeah.
With that, I want to thank you all for listening to us on Conversations in Horror, in which we talked about Hellraiser from 2022. Please make sure to check out all the other great films we are releasing this month of Pride Month. We have a lot of great films in store for you, and we hope that you enjoy. From all of us here at Something Wicked Entertainment, make sure to like, follow, share, subscribe. Do that thing you do with your favorite podcast or your favorite podcast app, Spotify or YouTube. And please make sure to check out our other podcast, Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors, which delves into the amazing oeuvre that is Hammer Studios from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. From all of us here, have a great day, and we will see you in the next universe. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.